averaging just under 37,000, and another full house on hand. Baseball is fun again in Philadelphia. They don't look like a Major League ball club is supposed to look in this era of well-dressed athletes. Their uniforms are stained and dirty, patched and ill-fitting. They don't shave before a game, and most of them chew tobacco. They have thick necks and knotty muscles, and they spit out of the sides of their mouths and then wipe the backs of their hands across their shirt fronts. They are not afraid of anybody, enemy ball players, fans, or umpires. They will risk arms, legs, and necks, their own or the other fellows. They also have a lot of fun playing baseball. Ironically, those words were written in 1934 about the St. Louis Cardinals Gas House Gang. The Cardinals tonight take on the Gas House Gang of the 90s, the Philadelphia Phillies. In the showdown between the Phillies and the St. Louis Cardinals, Bernard Gilkey led off the ball game with a home run, and the Cardinals quickly were up 1-0. But wait a minute. Dave Hollins in the bottom of the inning, this home run put the Phillies on top to stay. But the story of the night would be the man of the season, John Kruk, 5 for 5 against 5 different pitchers. Philadelphia Phillies had a slugfest last night, came away with a victory in Game 1 here at the Vet against the St. Louis Cardinals. As a result, take a look at the standings. Philadelphia's picked up yet one more game. The team that has been chasing them all season, the Cardinals, here tonight for Game 2. Hello, everybody. Gary Thorne, Peter Gammons, Buck Martinez, and welcome to the Vet. In this one in Game 2, despite the win by the Phillies last night, Buck, some question about, is this team still for real?
Gary, this team doesn't get any respect at all. I think the Phillies aren't going to get respect until they finally win the National League East. And we talked about the comparisons about the Gas House Gang. This Gas House Gang of the 90s, the Phillies, they know a lot of four-letter words, but they don't know the four-letter word fold. Don't be surprised if this team takes it all the way home and wraps up this National League East.
Well, if they don't, the team that's chasing them may be the other one to do it, St. Louis Cardinals. Peter Gammons, if the Cardinals are going to do it, what's going to happen?
They've got to get their pitching back together again. Their staff is really beaten up. Physically, they lost Mike Perez and Kilgus and Lancaster, and they're also beaten up psychologically. I mean, they're a staff that doesn't strike anybody out, and they've just come for the two worst parks for that, Colorado and Atlanta. They really need Bob Tewksbury to give them a big start before they get too far behind.
Two great pitchers tonight with great control, and Tewksbury and Mulholland. They make the start. The question is, can the St. Louis Cardinals gain some ground with 2 games remaining here in Philadelphia? Philadelphia Phillies coming away with their victory last night have improved their record now to 63-38. They are 5-3 this season against the St. Louis Cardinals. And for Joe Torre's Cardinals, the chance to gain some real ground with only 5 games remaining in this new balanced schedule now in the National League. Only 5 more against Philadelphia. And after this series, they will not see Philadelphia until the final series of the season in St. Louis. So in those so-called games that count double, where you're playing the team that's chasing you, or though you're doing the chasing, that's when you got to pick up some big victories. The Energizer starting lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals tonight. Leading off, Luis Alicea will be playing at second base. Ozzie at short will bat second. Big season for Bernard Gilkey, left field. He'll bat third. Todd Zeile, player of the week at third base. Another great star for them, Mark Whitten, this season in right field, a swing hitter. Brian Jordan will be in center field tonight. Eric Pappas is going to make the start behind the plate. Tracy Woodson will be starting at first. We'll tell you why. And Bob Tewksbury, the pitcher, will be batting ninth.
Left-hander Terry Mulholland will start for the Phillies tonight. 9-8 on the season with a very good 2.78 ERA. Mulholland was the starter in the All-Star game for the National League. He has been stuck on 9 wins for 5 straight games now, trying to get that elusive 10th win. Mulholland is a sneaky pitcher. He's got an unusual delivery where the ball really jumps out of his hand and gets on the hitters quickly. He has a good slider, sinks the ball down and away, and has a very effective split finger pitch. He loves to bust those right-handed hitters off the plate inside. Defensively, it's Milt Thompson in left field, Dykstra and Jim Eisenreich around the outfield. Dave Hollins at third, Mariano Duncan at shortstop. Shortstop has been a problem for the Phillies this year. They've made 30 errors at the shortstop position. Mickey Morandini, John Crook on the right side. Darren Dalton, what a horse he is behind the plate. He teams up with Terry Mulholland. Dave Holland, 17 errors at third base. Last year, he made 18 the entire season. But remember, he had surgery on his throwing hand. Had a broken bone. 13 days after the surgery, he was back in the lineup. And I believe that has had some effect. That has caused some of those throwing errors.
Keep an eye on him tonight and see how it works. Peter Gammons, this Philadelphia team for real?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I think the most important thing is Tommy Green, even though he had the pulled groin last night, and Kurt Schilling have come through sort of a psychologically and physically dead period, starting to throw the ball well again, and they still have that great top 3 starter rotation.
And Fergosi certainly thinks it is for real, and they certainly look like it last night, holding on to pick up a 10-7 win. Luis Alicea, the switch hitter, leading it off against left-hander rather, Terry Mulholland, the 30-year-old. And takes the pitch down low for ball, and we are underway. Alicea batting .368 right-handed and .293 left-handed. A real fine season. The guy who's taken over the leadoff spot and is playing at second base. Cardinals have had some people like Alicea come through who really weren't anticipated to have these kind of years.
No, they didn't really expect him to be the kind of player he's been with the bat. He's had some problems with his shoulder lately, and that has kept him out of the lineup for a while, but he's healthy again and back to the leadoff spot.
Took over the regular second base job following the injury to Geronimo Pena on July 6th. So Alicea getting some playing time. He has been one of their so-called prospects for 3 seasons now with the St. Louis Cardinals. Terry Mulholland. That's the strike in the outside corner. Wally Bell's at the plate. Terry Tata at first. Greg Bonet at second and Eric Gregg at third. The umpiring crew for tonight's game. Mulholland in, and that's going to be by for a base hit. Milt Thompson plays it in from left field, and Alicea is 3 for 8 against Mulholland in his career. He leads it off with a St. Louis single.
Joe Torre does some mixing up of the lineup tonight against Mulholland. That's a fastball right down the middle. Terry Mulholland will not walk many guys. He loves to come right at you, so you got to expect that you're going to get a decent pitch to hit sometime during the at-bat.
Now we'll see what Joe Torre will do here with Ozzie up. Mulholland looking for the bunt. He was charging in from the mound after the delivery, fouled off. Ozzie trying to move up Alicea. Numbers for Ozzie Smith this season have been good again. In fact, better than last year. RBIs has already passed the total he had last season and runs batted in. .343 right-handed and .263 left-handed. 2 switch hitters at the top of the order for the Cardinals. Right straight up the middle and whacked hard off Mulholland. And the St. Louis Cardinals have the first 2 on here in the first inning with nobody out.
Well, we talked about Mulholland being around the plate. Cardinals have come to the plate expecting to get strikes. Johnny Padres, the pitching coach on the left of your screen, loves the way that Mulholland comes at you. But he will give up some hits. That's what he did last time out against the Giants. 7 innings, 6 hits, just 1 walk. You can see he's got outstanding control. And he's always going to be around the plate. What he needs now is another ground ball to convert into a double play.
Mulholland has the 4th best earned run average in the National League this season. He's faced 2 real good hitters against lefties, though. Alicea at .368 and Smith at .343. They're both on. And the pitch is taken down low by Bernard Gilkey. Here's a wonderful story about a young man whose attitudes changed from left to right and has become a real star.
Well, their outfield is really very different than what they thought it would be. Brian Jordan went down to the minor leagues, came back, and has emerged. Whitney's had a great year. The problem has been Langford has been through 3 injuries and is still trying to adjust to them.
Gilkey has certainly filled in the offensive role for this team, batting in that number 3 spot, and he has just torn up Mulholland. 10 for 19 in his career against this particular left-hander. So Terry Mulholland's not facing the man he'd like to see in this particular setting with 2 on and nobody out. And he misses up high. He doesn't want to give him the good pitch, but puts him on. The bases are going to be loaded, and the fans a little oohing and ahhing here as the count's 3-0 already. Mulholland. We have two of the best control pitchers in the game in Tewksbury and Mulholland. They just don't walk people. Last season, Tewksbury had the best ratio of not walking folks. Mulholland was 4th this season. Tewksbury's still up there at the top, and Mulholland is 7th. Todd Zeal, the cleanup batter, on deck. 3-1 delivery. Gilkey with 2 on. Now, we said these two pitchers have great control. They don't give up hits. They'll work quickly. This game's going to fly. Yeah. Bases loaded. Nobody out in the first inning.
It never fails. Jim Fregosi has his ace on the mound, thinking, oh yeah, this guy will be right at him. Couple of base hits. Alisea got it started with a single to left, and then Ozzie Smith went right back up the middle to center field, and then the number 3 hitter Bernard Gilkey with the walk.
Well, Mulholland walked only 1 batter in each of his 3 previous games. He's already reached that level here in this one with the 3rd batter that he's faced. Now he's got to take on a red-hot Todd Zeal.
Gary, you can see what Joe Torre has done with this lineup tonight. He's gone back into the books and recognized that Ozzie Smith has hit well against Mulholland. Bernard Gilkey 10 for 19, and Todd Zeal almost 400 against Holland.
Those were the papers Joe was showing us here in the clubhouse in his office before the game. He's got his little red book that has all the numbers of all his players against opposing pitchers in the league, and those are some numbers that he does use. And so far in the first inning, it's working. Bases are loaded. Zeal 3 for 12 with the bases loaded this year. Center field, Dykstra looking up. Goodbye, grand slam home run, Todd Zeal. We told you he was red hot. His 8th home run and 1 swing of the bat, 4 RBIs.
Take a look at the swing by Zeal. He gets that fastball that stays right down the middle. Zeal knows it's gone. Mulholland knows it's gone. A grand slam home run in the first inning by Todd Zeal.
That is his first major league grand slam home run.
He has been such an important part of the Cardinals offense. As their pitching has struggled in the last 6 weeks, their offense has really come. And Zeal, I think, matter of fact, Torre said after the bad start he had, when he defensively and offensively, when he was jumping at everything, he finally started relaxing. A lot of the players think it's his association with Greg Jeffries, sort of the ultimate baseball junkie, but he's really become the player that everybody thought he'd be.
61 RBIs, 8 home runs on the season for Zeal. Mulholland gets to start all over again. Bases are empty, nobody out. And the batter is Whitten, the switch hitter. Mark Whitten has gone 3 for 4 in the times he has faced Mulholland, and the fans here in Philadelphia, many of whom are still walking to their seats, checking the scoreboard and going, what? There's the what right there, Todd Zeal.
You know, we talked about Joe Torre shuffling the lineup because of the success these hitters have had against Mulholland. And when you step to the plate knowing you've hit a guy real well throughout your career, that's added confidence. Joe Torre is a former hitter, really knows how important it is, and he's trying to ignite a fire under this Cardinal offense right now, and he's done it here in the first inning.
Terry Mulholland has now given up 11 home runs this season. 8 of those have been hit by right-handers. And he's in deep trouble early in this game, but it's the first inning. Last night the Cardinals went ahead on a leadoff home run in the ball game and still lost it by a score of 10-7, even though they battled back to within 1 late in the game. Mulholland, oh my gosh, did he tag that? It is a foul ball, upper deck down the left field line. See why they're pacing down to third. Hollins, he's in trouble. Great play by Croc. He may say his hand isn't hurting him, but Buck, you mentioned it right there. We saw it.
Gary, I think initially the hand probably had a lot to do with his bad throwing, but right now it's creeping into his mind. You can see him fight the ball, and then when he gets it, he throws it right into the turf. What an effort by John Kruk to help out the third baseman, Dave Hollins, and save him another error. These things really wear on your mind after a while.
Phillies not getting the start they wanted in this game, but one away. Here's Brian Jordan, the center fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. His first ball hitting on Mulholland and fouls it off.
Gary, one thing we haven't seen from Mulholland yet is the establishment of getting inside. The Cardinal hitters are walking up to the plate, taking real good hacks at Mulholland. Going to have to neutralize that aggressive swing.
Last win he had came on June 19, so Mulholland may have a lot in the back of his mind out there as he makes the start. 9-8 on the season. Went to the outside part of the plate on Jordan that time. Stays up high to him. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, 4 runs in here in the first inning for the Cardinals, who have gone 18-8 against left-handed starters this season. They have some players who are putting up very big numbers offensively against left-handers. Reaching for it, Jordan fouls it back. Count remains, ball and 2 strikes. First grand slam home run. That's a special moment. Todd Zeil's going to have time to just sit there and savor the moment. Came in on him that time off the fists. There you see the numbers in July for him. ERA hasn't been that bad, but no W's from it. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
When this club went out on the West Coast trip, they went 5-6 on the 11-game trip, but they started out 0-3 in San Diego. They weren't hitting the ball very well. They just didn't have an awful lot of offensive support for the pitchers.
I'll tell you something that Jim Fergosi's not going to like out there right now. Terry Mulholland's got his head down. To that last pitch, Mulholland looked like he was ready to come out of the game. He just kind of put his head down and was shaking it. 3-2 delivery. Foul back off the, not off the screen, going into the seats right over it.
Let's take a look at Terry Mulholland as he throws the pitch Gary was talking about. Watch his reaction after he throws this ball right on through. Just a little bit discouraged right now with the start that he's had.
Foul back onto the screen. I mean, we have all seen in baseball these kind of games. You get a lot of runs in the first inning. The team that does it tends to sit right there for the rest of the game, and the other team jumps up on them, and you end up with a 1-run ball game more often than not. 3-2 delivery, and he's battling Brian Jordan here, who will not give in. 3-2.
You know, the Phillies have had an awful lot of tests lately to their character, and here's yet another one tonight against the Cardinals, who they're trying to keep back in the pack, not to encourage the Cardinals too much.
The 11th pitch to Jordan. He gets the fly ball to center. Lenny Dykstra. Mulholland wins that battle. 2 down. So after the first 4 got on and scored on the grand slam by Zeil, Witten and Jordan retired. And now we'll get a look at the man who's doing the catching tonight, Eric Pappas, who's put up some very fine numbers for this team. Tom Pagnozzi has played in 49 of the games. Pappas has now played in 47.
It's very important for Mulholland to give them a few innings in this game. It's a hot night. The ball jumps here when it's hot like this. And if he can stay in there and give them innings, they really wore out their bullpen last night after Tommy Green went down. So Fergosi really wants some innings here.
Both these teams are hoping their starters can do something. Fans wanted the call, so did Mulholland. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Last night's game, 10-7, 12 pitchers. There goes the bat. That would have been a base hit with the bat, but unfortunately he never touched the ball. 36 pitches in the inning. Terry Mulholland, the big blow against him with the bases loaded. Todd Zeile, his first grand slam. The Phillies, the #1 team in the league in runs and third in home runs. Jim Fregosi sets it up like this. Leading it off, Lenny Dykstra in center field. Shortstop Mariano Duncan bats second. Everybody's all everything. John Kruk, first base, batting third. Saw the man at third base, the cleanup batter, Dave Hollins. Darren Dalton, the all-star catcher, will be batting fifth. Jim Eisenreich, great season for this veteran. He's in right field. Milt Thompson doing a great platoon job this year. He'll make the start at left. Mickey Morandini is at second base. And Terry Mulholland doing the pitching.
10-5, Bob Tewksbury on the mound for the Cardinals, 3.86 ERA. When you look up the word pitcher in the dictionary, and Bob Tewksbury's picture is underneath it. He uses a fastball, little touch, 86 miles an hour once in a while. Spots it very well. Look at the base on balls. Just 7 walks in 134 2/3 innings. Defensively, it's Gilkey, Jordan, and Whitten in the outfield. A lot of speed. They can really close the gaps. Todd Zeile, Ozzie Smith on the left side. Louis Alicea, Tracy Woodson starts in place of Greg Jeffries, who's out once again with back problems. Eric Pappas behind the plate. Bob Tewksbury on the mound. Todd Zeile, like Dave Holland, 17 errors at third base, but a lot of those errors came early, and he's really settled down defensively at third.
So Tewksbury's got 4 to work with before he ever throws a pitch in this game. Lenny Dykstra with an 8-game hit streak takes the pitch for a strike. Lenny's back at it again, putting up the numbers they expect. Good on-base percentage. Leads the team with 26 stolen bases. Already 12 home runs this season. Goes after that one right at second base, literally on the bag. Oz puts it away. Dykstra's retired.
Now there's a good example of a guy that doesn't throw hard, making a good pitch and jamming a good fastball hitter, Lenny Dykstra. The whole essence of pitching is move the ball around. Don't ever really allow a hitter to sit on a particular pitch. Lenny was thinking it was going to be something off speed. He was waiting back to get it. Tewksbury got the weak pop-up on the infield.
You might as well be swinging because you're not going to get walked. Duncan playing at shortstop for the Phillies. Their fine young shortstop Kevin Stalker is out with an injury, expected to be back tomorrow afternoon. He sprained a left ankle. Word is he is ready to play, and tomorrow afternoon is expected to be in. So Mariano Duncan makes the start in tonight's game. Pretty good veteran to have around, batting .271 when you got your #1 shortstop out.
Well, he does a lot of things for you. He can play all the infield positions, can play in the outfield. He's got some pop in his bat.
Right off the fist, Tewksbury down to first. Tracy Woodson moving in. He makes the play. Woodson is in at first base. Greg Jeffries is having a great season at the plate. He's got a bad back, has had it for a long time, and acted up the last couple of days, so he's out. Woodson's in. John Kruk, they love him. Last night he went 5 for 5. Second time this season and in his career he has done that. He did it against 5 different pitchers, including 4 left-handers. Asked what he was thinking about late in the game that lasted 3.5 hours last night. Told reporters, I was thinking we've been out there too damn long.
He was great. Today he was telling Dennis Menke about his father, his hitting coach, what an influence he was. He said, what did he teach you? See the ball and hit it, period.
Second base, Alicea. Boy, that is just the kind of inning Tewksbury wanted. Because out with a 4-0 lead, get rid of Philadelphia in a hurry. He did it on 8 pitches. 4-0 Cardinals. And that one is popped up outside of first base. John Kruk moving out on Tracy Woodson's pop-up. And there's one away here in the second inning. Tewksbury and Alicea coming up.
It's always important for pitchers to get off on a real positive note. Want to establish dominance early. Look at the difference between Tewksbury and Mulholland. Mulholland was struggling 3 hits and a walk in the first inning led to 4 runs.
They do throw strikes. Tewksbury's gone. He didn't want to stay out there in the heat anyway. 2 down here in the second inning on a couple of pitches by Terry Mulholland, getting rid of the opposing pitcher. And Luis Alicea, top of the order, will be coming up. Mentioned last night, I mean, what a game this was. They ended up with the starting pitcher, Green, for Philadelphia, having to leave. He's got a bad groin, had a 7-1 lead, had to go out of the ball game. They said today he's going to miss his next start, and they'll wait till later in the week to determine whether he needs to go on the DL. It's not good news with Tommy Green. Then Kruk ended up going 5 for 5 against the 5 different pitchers, 4 left-handers. 3.5 hours, 12 pitchers, 4 errors, 7 walks, a balk, and 38 players appeared in last night's game here at the Vet.
Yeah. Busy night.
Yeah.
I never could have kept track of it in my scorebook.
Glad we're doing this one, I think. Strike on the outside corner. Alicea singled, starting that big first inning when they got all 4. Holland trying to have himself a quick inning right here. 1-0 this season against St. Louis. 6-3 lifetime for Mulholland against the Cardinals. He's hoping he doesn't have a repeat of last year when he ended up 13-11. Not that that was so bad, but he went 4-7 in the second half after having a 9-4 beginning. It's kind of happening again for Terry Mulholland this season, with his last win going back to June 19. The Phillies really do need him to be successful in a starting role.
They need somebody to step up in the second half to provide leadership and lead the staff. There for a while, right before the All-Star break, the pitching staff in general was in a slump.
1-2 delivery.
One thing that hurts this staff a little bit is the Phillies are not a good defensive team, and that's being very kind. One of the things that coaches say is that if Green and Schilling hadn't been so overpowering in the first half, we would have seen a lot more errors than they've made. And I think the defense really hurts a guy like Mulholland when he starts to go into a slump, because if he pitched for a team like the Giants, who are very much like the Pirates were the last 3 or 4 years, I don't think he would have to worry about any kind of slump, because they'd catch the ball for him.
And the walk. They want to check it first whether he went around, and Terry Tata says no. So Alicea is on. The second walk given up by Mulholland in this game, who has walked only 30 in 138 innings this year. To keep the inning alive and drive the bench crazy over there. Here's Ozzie. He singled his first time up. Hardest man to strike out in the National League right now. Ozzie Smith, not unusual throughout his career. It's been that way. Ozzie's gotten to the point tonight in appearances where his new contract kicks in. He's got an automatic option for next season. All he has to go now is to a doctor of his choice, who says he is physically able to play another season, and his contract's effective.
Think he'll find one that can give him the stamp of approval?
Knowing the AMA may be listening, no comment.
He looks healthy to me.
He sure is playing healthy, isn't he? Runner at first base, 2 down. 4-0 lead for the Cardinals here in the second. 287 on the season for Smith. Not a big lead at first for Alicea. Ozzie going the other way with that. Jim Eisenreich over. There's no foul territory down there, literally. Ends up in the seats.
Peter, you make a very valid point about the pitching staff and what it does to a pitcher to recognize that your defense has got a 50-50 chance of catching it. All of a sudden, the pitcher becomes very defensive and starts to try to make perfect pitches all the time. The Giants pitching staff, on the other hand, has a situation where they say, hey, everybody behind me can catch it. I'm just going to throw it over the plate, put it in play.
Philadelphia is 11th in team defense in the league. St. Louis is 9th. You always look to see what that amounts to, whether or not those errors result in runs. Philadelphia this season, they have given up 452 runs, 390 of them are almost on Alicea. So So that's 62 unearned runs off Philadelphia this season. Nowhere near the 90 of Detroit. Can you believe that? Detroit has given up 90 unearned runs already this year.
A lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been moving people around in different positions.
Alicea goes. Ozzie fouls it off.
You can put players in the outfield. Mickey Tettleton's been playing right. And they've moved Travis Fryman now over to third base and travels back to shortstop. They've had a lot of different combinations. Guys can make the routine plays, but every once in a while they're going to boot the ball around. And in that ballpark, an air and then a long ball, all of a sudden there's 2 runs. Unearned.
Unearned. 2 down here. 2-2 the count. Mulholland with Alicea running again. Ozzie tomahawks that one. Milt Thompson. Look up tomahawk. You'll see that swing. Dave Hollins will be coming up when we come back. Hollins, Dalton, and Eisenreich coming up here in the second inning for Philadelphia. Bob Tewksbury puts the butterfly in for a strike on Hollins, who is 4 for 18 in his career against Tewksbury. St. Louis back to the turn of the century for baseball. Philadelphia 1876. 2 great franchises. One of the few times a pitcher makes a play. Hollins retired. Tewksbury. Go back all those years of Major League Baseball. That's where Bob Tewksbury ranks for the turn of the century in walks per 9 innings. How'd you like to be up there with Christy Matheson and Cy Young in any category? Great control.
Well, he's thrown 11 pitches, 1 non-fastball thus far. But people always think he's sort of a junk pitcher. He throws anywhere from 65 to 70% fastballs.
For strikes. Working here to Darren Daulton. Dalton's put up the big power numbers all around the board, including the fact he's struck out the 9th most times in the league this season. But in his case, that's all right, because Darren Daulton's got the kind of numbers you need. He's tied for 3rd in RBIs. He's 10th in home runs. Daulton picks up a lot of walks, 3rd in the league in walks. Phillies have the top 3 in walks. Kruk, Dykstra, and Daulton are 1, 2, 3. That's what he does. Deep. Is it fair? It is a foul ball.
That was an interesting reaction. Just a long strike. Looks like Darren Daulton's a little bit rejuvenated after being in a physical slump, being beat up as a catcher. Boy, he whips that bat through the hitting area there. Out in front of the curveball. He knows he's got the distance, but it's foul by a couple of feet.
Center field, if he'd have pulled out, he'd have had a dinger, but he didn't. And it's 408 out there, where Brian Jordan goes back and hauls it in, and Daulton is retired. 2 down. So he got one of those beautiful swings for a left-handed power hitter, though, or what? Tewksbury has given up 9 home runs this season, 7 to right-handers, only 2 to left-handers. But the left-handers are hitting .290 against Bob Tewksbury. Pitch is taken for a strike by Jim Eisenreich. One of the things Philadelphia did in the offseason that has mattered enormously is improve their bench, and here's one of the guys who's a reason for that, Jim Eisenreich.
They didn't expect him to get nearly this much playing time.
When he does, that's what he's doing. Gilkey over to get it. There's the first hit, first base runner of Tewksbury. A 2-out single by Eisenreich here in the second. Just a quality man right there. Great presence on the team, a winner. Very quiet guy who goes about his job and gets it done. 4-0 St. Louis on top here in the second. Milt Thompson coming up with Eisenreich at first and 2 out. Here's another one of the guys off the bench. Ozzie backing up, has a force at second. Would have been a tough throw, so he goes to first. Thompson is retired. No runs, a base hit, 1 left on. We've completed 2 here at the vet. Zeal's grand slam hanging on. The offensive numbers, but he really does take charge of a pitching staff. Before the All-Star game, he didn't like what he was seeing, and he said so.
I would never do something like that unless I thought I was going to get a result, and I think it hit home. I think at that point in the season, the pressure had built up, especially going into St. Louis with that series there, and heck, we had almost 3 months of baseball left, so I don't think that's the time to have any pressure on you. Still should be out here having fun, but I think it worked, and everybody's back on track now.
Dan Dalton felt that the pitchers were getting defensive. They had good records going. They were throwing well, and then they started to pitch a little defensively. He wanted to make sure they got regrouped and refocused, thinking, hey, we've got about 100 games left now, fellas. Let's continue to throw the way that we have up to this point and be successful. You got to have that kind of leader if you're going to win anything. Whether or not it's the catcher is always a different thing.
He has that presence. I know you don't like to see catchers do that sort of thing, but Bernard Gilkey leading it off here in the third inning. Gilkey, Zeal, and Witten do up. 1-2 count on him. He drew a walk in the first, one of two given up by Mulholland, and came in on the grand slam by Todd Zeal. This time he pops it up shallow right field. Eisenreich says, I got it. One away in the third. Todd Zeal putting himself in yet another spot in the record books for himself and for the Cardinals. First inning, first time he had ever done this. With the bases loaded off Mulholland, and it was for real. 371 to the gap in left center. He added a good 20 feet beyond that.
Coming into this game, he was hitting 393 against Mulholland. That's why Torrey had him in the cleanup spot.
Mulholland gets the strike on him. Cardinals on a road trip where they are 3-5. 10 games in 11 days. Peter mentioned one of the reasons they are a bit worn right now is the road trip.
Well, they were two very tough parks. They don't strike out anybody, and those two parks are the two best home run parks in the league. Some of the balls hit off them in Colorado were pop flies that disappeared over the fence. Matter of fact, Torrey called baseball in that park arena baseball.
Arena baseball. Start a new league. Foul back. He has some great ideas today. I was asking what he thought of the balanced schedule now, where you play the same amount of games against your division teams as you do those out of the division. He'd like to see it go back the other way. Thinks it's more interesting for fans to see more games against teams that you are directly competing with for a division title.
It'd be great to have a Cardinal Philly home and home series in September. I think that's what Torrey is thinking about.
Great pitch. That's the second strikeout for Mulholland. 2 down. Let's check in with Gary Miller.
Gary, Budweiser takes us to Skydome. Toronto's got to win to stay ahead of the Yankees. Fernando Valenzuela's given up just 3 earned runs in his last 5 starts. But the Jays get on early. In the first inning, Carter knocks in his 80th run of the year. In the third, it's 1-0. Back to our trio with the vets.
Gary, thank you very much. Toronto, 3-game win streak coming into that ball game. Baltimore Orioles have lost 2. Toronto ahead of New York by 1/2. Boston by 1.5 games. Baltimore by 2.5. Detroit by 5. And I'm sad to say Cleveland's now 10 behind. Grounded down to third. Played there by Hollins. Makes the play. That'll retire the side in order, and these two pitchers now doing what we expected as they're getting rid of the opposition in short order. Thank you. I was serious saying that about Cleveland. I am sorry to see them 10.5 out. I think it would be good for baseball and great for Cleveland moving into a new park next season to be in it and generate some interest in a great baseball town. Mickey Morandini. Mulholland will follow, and then Dykstra against Bob Tewksbury, who's given up but 1 single.
How about the Indians selling out their final 3-game series in 8 hours?
Now there's a marketing package, right? Chopped. Ozzie, this is what he gets paid for. Hello, gotcha. Still can do it.
And he did it because he was aggressive. He really comes quickly, and look how fast he unloads it and gets him easily. Morandini runs pretty well, but that was no contest for the veteran Ozzie Smith.
Ever watch him practice? He works so hard at every little thing. Even running out into the outfield, takes half a dozen of those pop flies and catches them over his shoulder. He practices the same way today as he did when he broke in with the Padres many years ago.
Most games at short. There you see the numbers. Lozzie there, and a base hit for Terry Mulholland, maybe. The throw to first, not in time. Good peg made by Whitten, who's got one of the best arms of any outfielder in the major leagues, and he almost got Mulholland because he hit the ball hard.
Everybody knew what was going to happen. Watch Mulholland after he realizes he's lined it. He knows he's got to hustle down to first base. Whitten's thinking first base. Woodson's thinking first base. And it's a bang-bang play at first. Nothing looks worse on the scorebooks than a 9-3 putout.
So he beats out the throw from right field. Terry Mulholland getting the base hit for Mulholland this season. That is his 4th hit in 46 at-bats. Well, let's see if that generates a fire here. 1 down, 1 on. Lenny Dykstra popped out his first time up. Dykstra first in runs in the league with 93, well ahead of Barry Bonds' 79. Hits that one to right field hard. Whitten going back, warning track. It's going to hit at the base of the wall. Off the top. Mulholland, the pitcher, on his way to third. A double for Dykstra. Dykstra's 28th double ties him for 2nd in the league and 2 baggers with Craig Biggio.
Lenny Dykstra has stayed healthy all year long, and he's really been an important cog in this Philly offense. He rips that ball, one hops it off the wall in right center. Whitten gets it back in. Terry Mulholland had to hold up at third, and that kept Dykstra at 2nd.
Mariano Duncan gets the RBI chance. 2 on, 1 out. Fooled.
Now there's a perfect pitch. Everybody in the ballpark knows Tewksbury throws strike 1 fastball, except when runs are in scoring position. Duncan forgot that page of the scouting report.
That's why Tewksbury's successful. Duncan, that's towards left field in the gap. Gilkey over, can't play it. Mulholland will score. Dykstra coming to the plate. 2 runs in for the Phillies.
Duncan fights this one off and just flares it over the infield into left field. Gilkey can't track it down, takes it on a hop. Mulholland scores easily, but Dykstra did a great job of base running, and look, he's right on Mulholland's heels. He really read that hit well.
2 RBIs, Mariano Duncan. John Kruk takes the off-speed pitch for a strike.
Take a look at Lenny Dykstra. He's checking out the ball. He sees, look at Mulholland's going back to third, and Dykstra's on his way home. He already recognized that Gilkey wasn't going to make the play. Great base running.
43 RBIs for Mariano Duncan as he goes back to the bag. Duncan's hitting over 290 now with runners in scoring position. A real clutch season for him. John Kruk rounded out his first time up. It's rocking at the vet. That one's drilled right center field. Going back, Brian Jordan. Just short of the wall. Runner halfway. Back to first base goes Duncan. Kruk gave it a ride, but is retired.
It's been a long time since the atmosphere has been this electric in Philadelphia. John Kruk hits a fly ball to center field, and everybody jumped to their feet.
He's great for baseball. He has everybody talking about him all over the place. Why not? Great to have you with us. 2 down, runner at first base. Dave Hollins, cleanup batter. Base hit. Zeal couldn't get it. Duncan stops at 2nd. 3 smashed balls, 4 hits in the inning. Hollins is on with 2 down off Tewksbury. They play football here, too. Not this year, though. Not right now. The American Bowl Saturday will be live from Tokyo with the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New Orleans Saints. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann will be there as ESPN kicks off its 7th season of NFL coverage. Philly coming right back against Tewksbury. The one thing we haven't said about Tewksbury, with all the positives, and this is not necessarily a negative the way he's pitched, but he has given up more hits than any other pitcher in the National League. 158 coming into this game. But because he doesn't walk anybody, that generally does not get him into deep trouble. He's able to work himself out of innings. He's got to work himself out of this one.
You can see he's been a very hot pitcher. 6-1 in his last 9 starts. We talk about the Phillies defense. The Cardinal defense isn't what it usually is, particularly on the infield. And that will affect Tewksbury as well, because he gets a lot of ground balls.
Duncan and Hollins are on. Darren Dalton flied to center. One swing of the bat and the Phillies could be ahead. He got a hole of one and pulled it foul in his last at bat, and then flied out deep to center field. He's 10 for 31 with 2 home runs off Bob Tewksbury in his career. One of the tougher hitters Tewksbury faces. Misses with that one down low. 1 ball, 1 strike.
This is where you have a great pitcher-batter matchup, because Tewksbury has such outstanding control. He threw a curveball to Dalton, and Darren hooked it just foul beyond the foul pole. And this time it appears as though he's confident to stay outside.
They really are into the game here, aren't they? Only in the 3rd inning of this ball game, but great Philadelphia fans have waited a long time for a ball club like this. This is a blue-collar city. This is a blue-collar team. They go together. And they're loving each other. Breaking ball misses away. 3 balls, 1 strike on Dalton.
Now, if I'm Darren Dalton against Tewksbury in this situation, I got to think fastball away. Even though it's a 3-1 count, everything has been away in this at bat. He'll try to make a perfect pitch away, and Dalton's got plenty of power to drive it up the alley and left center.
3-1. He got a hold of that one. Left center field. Going back. Jordan at the wall. Can't get it off the top. This game's going to be tied. Duncan has scored. Holland scores. A stand-up triple.
A 3-1 fastball away from Darren Dalton. He didn't try to muscle it. He just took what Tewksbury gave him. Brian Jordan is right on it. It hits off the heel of his glove. He actually overjumped that ball. Dalton coasts into 3rd base. A 2-run triple, and the Phillies have jumped back with a vengeance here in the 3rd.
Game time. Runner at 3rd base, 2 down. For Darren Dalton, that is his 3rd triple of the season. He leads this club in runs batted in. He now has 73 on the year. That moves him into a 2nd place tie with Matt Williams. Todd Zeile makes the play at first on Eisenreich, but 8 come to the plate. The Phillies have tied it. Listen to the vet. House gang. The 2 Deans played. Ducky Joe Medwick right there, sliding into 3rd against Detroit's 3rd baseman Marvin Owens in the World Series. Went back in the outfield. The fans threw things at him. The commissioner, Landis, in attendance, said get him off the field for his own safety. Medwick wasn't happy as he came off and threw the glove. They were the Gas House Gang, St. Louis, 1934. This is the 90s version, ironically, here in Philadelphia.
Same style of ball players. They're not concerned about their appearance. They're concerned about beating you. All 4 of these key players, Dykstra, Kruk, Hollins, and Darren Dalton, the catcher, the foundation of a very good Philadelphia Phillies ball club.
They are fun to watch and follow. That ball hit the left by Jordan. It is deep. Thompson back and makes the catch. Milt Thompson.
You talked about improving the bench in the offseason, and Milt Thompson was one of the key ingredients. Look at the effort by Thompson. He goes up on the wall, and this atmosphere at the vet right now is absolutely electric. Extra bases robbed right out of the fence by Milt Thompson.
Ryan Jordan denied the extra base hit. Thompson the play. Here's Pappas, the catcher. Jordan just staring out to left. You saw Thompson, how excited he was holding it up. That one curving, foul.
You know, Gary, this might start to wear on the Cardinals. They were up 1-0 in last night's game. They were up 4-0 in tonight's game, and there's a lot of baseball left to be played here tonight. But they're starting to wonder, what do we have to do to beat these guys?
Here you see the numbers. Look at the Phillies are doing offensively. And 287 isn't bad, but 306 is better. Lots of runs being scored. These two teams meeting one another. Breaking ball by Mulholland, misses down low. Pappas struck out. His first time up. Eric Pappas working behind the plate in this game. This is like a playoff game. The excitement here and the way the guys are playing, no matter how much money they earn. When the crowd's rocking, the kid in these guys who love the game still comes out. Which is what makes it fun in the end.
And I think what you see is teams trying harder and harder to find guys who really love to play. That's the essence of the game. That's what the Phillies did with their bench, what the Yankees have done, what Boston's done.
Mulholland gets his third strikeout. 2 down here in the 4th inning as Pappas has gone down twice swinging.
This time Terry Mulholland goes upstairs with the fastball. Pappas can't get on top of it. Swings and misses.
92-mile-an-hour fastball by the left-hander. 2 down, bases empty, and here's Tracy Woodson. Play like that made by Thompson changes the whole complexion of the inning and sometimes a ball game.
Mulholland might have hurt himself. He had to run first to third on Dykstra's double, and it looked as though he was having problems. This guy has terrible knees. He's had knee problems throughout his career, going all the way back into high school. And he may have had problems running around the bases. And then on that last pitch, he really took a long walk off the mound.
Mariano Duncan came in to talk to him immediately, and Fergosi's just going to wait and see what Darren Dalton has found out.
Watch the pitch and then the subsequent walk off the mound. You can see he really was very tentative walking on those knees. It looked as though the right one kind of buckled on him a bit as he landed on it.
Overhand fastball to right. Eisenreich backing up, puts it away. That'll retire Woodson. So Mulholland gets out of the inning. Milt Thompson helped him a lot with a great catch in left field to start it out. Keeping it going. Milt Thompson fulfills the baseball adage. To make a great defensive play, get the lead off the next inning. What are your chances? 1 in 9. Pitch misses outside doing. Thompson grounded out his first time up, but this was the first out of the last half inning. Ryan Jordan, the man denied the extra base hit. Thompson, the only man who didn't bat in the 3rd inning. And Philadelphia got 4 runs and 5 hits, answering the grand slam home run by Todd Zeile in the 1st. 4-6-0 for the Phillies. And the Cardinals picking up their 4 runs on 3 hits. All of that happening in the 1st. And he's on. You want to keep that one on your VCR. 8th walk of the year by Tewksbury. Here are the games remaining for the Cardinals and the Phillies, and that head-to-head we were talking about. One more here in this series. Then they only meet one more time in St. Louis, the very last series of the season.
Cardinals play very well at home. They're 32-18 for the season. For the Phillies, they're 34-17. Both clubs playing very good baseball at their home ballparks. To carry that note a further step, the Phillies, of their remaining games, play the Mets, the Rockies, and the Marlins 18 more times. That's pretty significant in a pennant race.
We were talking about that before the game, Buck. I mean, people like to look at, you know, the head-to-head and what's remaining, but what you've already done doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't. That's why you build up big cushions.
That's what Philadelphia's done this season with their great start. They were 17-5 in April, 17-10 in May, and 18-10 in June.
Well, you come into town and all you hear about is 1964, and here's a team that's gained 2 games in the standings in the last 8 days. The Cardinals made their run and got within 3 games. Now they've struggled, and you talk about playing the expansion teams. One of the reasons they struggled were 3 games that they blew when they had the leads against Colorado.
Biggest lead has been 11.5 1st of June to the middle of June. St. Louis got to within 3. Now the Cardinals are behind 5 coming into tonight's game. Mickey Morandini, who grounded out, waiting at the plate, but Thompson's the one who's gaining all the attention. As Tewksbury feeling there may be probably a hit-and-run situation here. There you see the standings at this moment. Thompson at first, not going. Morandini, one of the few left in the game. He shows you some end of the bat when he's at the plate. He's up there 1.5 inches when he stands in, choking up on it. 1-1 the count on him. Nobody out. Tewksbury's trying to stay away from Mickey Morandini because Morandini's got a big hole between first and second, with Woodson holding the bag.
4 times now in the last 2 innings, Tewksbury's done a little shadow pitching after letting the ball go, and it's very evident that he's very uncomfortable. Somehow he feels mechanically he's out of whack.
He walked somebody, so we know that's true.
Well, he feels that there are 3 things that figure in when you talk about good command: mechanics, confidence, and pitch selection. Mechanics are obviously a problem for him.
Good strike in the outside corner, knee high. 2 balls, 2 strikes. It is really warm here tonight. I don't know what the temperature is at the moment, but the humidity's got to be 100%. Temperature today was up in the low 90s. The guys who are on the mound and behind the plate in particular will sweat some off tonight. Thompson not going. Morandini right down the line. That takes the force play off. Got to put a tag on Ozzie, and he does. So they get the double play, 3-6, as Morandini pulled it right down to Tracy Woodson, the first baseman. That takes care of the leadoff man, Milt Thompson, and Morandini.
Morandini's taking a shot at that big hole on the right side, but he gets too much of it and pulls it right at Woodson. Woodson quickly goes to the bag. That retires Morandini. Now Ozzie Smith has to tag the base runner, and he does.
2 down. Tewksbury getting help. Mulholland, who had to hit his first time up. Soft liner to Alicea at second. That's it. Bases only 3 here in the 4th. 1 walk. Nobody left on. Game time. Top of the 5th inning in a 4-4 ball game. Todd Zeile, the grand slam in the first. Cardinals are up 4-0. 4 runs, 5 hits in the 3rd inning. A 2 RBI single, Mariano Duncan, and a 2 RBI triple by Darren Dalton.
Terry Mulholland, after a very rocky first inning through 36 pitches in the first, has really found the groove here. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th inning.
Tewksbury up.
Liable to stay in that groove, but Tewksbury leading the inning off.
Yeah. Mulholland's retired 12 of the last 13 now since the first 4 reached base in this game. Fouled off by Tewksbury.
This is something you can't really measure. It's character of a ball club, and I think the Phillies have tons of character. There are a lot of characters in the clubhouse, but on the field, they really never give up. Think back to the Dykstra double that got everything going after Mulholland's single. John Kruk. Now, he's a character, but let me tell you, when he steps onto that field, he's all business. He's got one thing on his mind, and that's beating
That's what we were talking about earlier. They love to play. It's the point Peter was making, that maybe that's what baseball's got to find more of. Teams got to find guys who want to play this game. They all want to make the money, and understandably so, but after you get it, you still want to play. Tewksbury's gone. Mulholland gets his 4th strikeout, went away here in the 5th inning.
Well, you know, there's so much money in the game now. Whenever you put a team together, you really have to investigate the personality. What drives this guy? Money's not going to motivate them. You have to really reach their pride and say, are these guys going to be tough enough to play for 6 months and put together a kind of season that's going to lead to a world championship?
And that's why you need general managers who are baseball people who understand talent and character, not a bunch of rotisserie guys and a bunch of accountants, you know. I mean, and Lee Thomas is just that. And this team fits his personality. He wasn't called Mad Dog for nothing.
You know why I love you. Hearing these things. He puts down rotisserie baseball. Any man who does that is #1 in my book. There they are. The Brain Trust for Philadelphia. Taken up high by Alicea, who singled and his walk, so on twice.
You know, several years ago, the World Series bonus money was very significant to a guy that was making $18,000 to $20,000 for the season. Now, a $119,000 World Series check just kind of gets in the way, clutters up the accounting. Bill Giles in the center of your screen there. President of the ball club. Waited a long time for this team to show up.
It's not easy to put it together.
And what a contrast to that team of the mid and late 80s, which were such stylers, and they were the ultimate baseball cool.
That sure changed. 3rd walk given up by Mulholland in this game. That puts Alicea on for the 3rd time. Coming up on Friday night, talk about teams who are battling. Big series. The Red Sox and the Orioles from Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Frank Viola 6 and 8. Mike Mussina 11 and 4. And then you will see at 10:30 Nolan Ryan, Texas Rangers and the Oakland A's. Ricky Henderson. Henderson's been on a tear. Ryan, one good start, one not so good start since coming off the DL. We are 4-4 here. Terry Mulholland working with 1 down to Ozzie Smith. Smith has been up with Alicea on for the 3rd time now. He got a single in the 1st inning, fly it out to left in the 2nd. Batting at .287 on the season. Outside corner, caught it. We're talking about, Peter was talking about the New York Mets after an absolute disaster of enormous proportions have gone back to what you were saying. Joe McIlvain, one of the ultimate baseball men who believes in character of people first, is coming back to run the baseball side of it. And they're going to hire somebody else to run the business side. Outside corner, and Ozzie, the most difficult to strike out last night, was taken twice on a K for the first time this year, has struck out again here tonight.
Ozzie can't pull the trigger right here as they paint the black on the outside corner, and Ozzie may have been fooled. Maybe they have switched up their pitching pattern to Ozzie for him to take that many strikes. It's like he didn't expect to be worked away like that.
Gilkey, 2 down, 1 on, 4-4 game.
One thing Mulholland does so well against the Cardinals is take away their running game and putting the ball in play, because he's got the great move to first. He's so quick to the plate. You can't do a lot of hit and running. You can't steal.
Gilkey, base hit. Played by Dykstra. And stopping is Alicea at second base. 2 down, 2 on. Gary Miller.
Budweiser takes us to Skydome. Harold Baines had tied the game earlier with a home run, but Olerud got it back. Now Baines is at it again. He's hitting .500 against Toronto this year. 2 for 2 tonight. This 2-run double scores McLemore and Devereaux. Even though Baines was thrown out, it is now Valenzuela up 4-2 in the bottom of the 5th. Back to the vet.
Well, there are some stories in baseball. Valenzuela and Baines are 2 of them, 2 veterans. 1 pitching, 1 hitting. Harold happy to be back home. Baltimore, just outside of Baltimore, is where he's from. Always kept his home there. He's now bought a condominium within walking distance of Camden Yards. When he has games, he goes there. When he has a chance, he drives home. on here. Gilkey, who had the single at first, Alicea at second, Todd Zeile the grand slam in the first. 8 home runs on the year for him. 61 runs batted in. Zeile batting .270 with runners in scoring position this year. A chance to pick up another RBI or 2 with Alicea the lead runner. Nice pitch inside.
You can pitch inside, but unless you get a few called strikes in there, it's really ineffective. You have to be able to show the right-handed hitters that you could throw strikes on the inside part of the plate, so you put both sides of the plate in their minds. The home run that Zeile hit in the first inning was a fastball. Mulholland was trying to get inside, but it drifted back over the middle of the plate.
Darren Dalton was positioning Lenny Dykstra in center. Now lays the sign down for Mulholland, who comes back inside but misses down low. 2 balls, 1 strike, 2 down, 2 on here. Game tied at 4-4. These 2 teams will come back, play a day game tomorrow to wrap up this 3-game series. Philadelphia 6 games at home, including this 3-game set. He's staying inside, but missing way down low that time. 3 balls and 1 strike on Zeile. The hit off Mulholland by Gilkey this inning, the first hit Cardinals have had since the first. Will he give him 1 to hit? Nope. He gave him a great pitch in the inside corner. And Wally Bell, the home plate umpire, says, come back here.
Mulholland goes inside, and Darren Dalton does a pretty good job of selling it to the umpire right there. Quick snatched it and kept it in the strike zone.
Zeile's really up on that plate. 3-2.
Those are the guys you have to pitch inside even more, because now the outside corner to them becomes the middle of the plate.
They're challenging you to take that so-called pitcher's inside part of the plate back. Runners will be off and going. Alicea at second, Gilkey at first. They run, popped up right off the fist. He stayed in. Pitcher wants it. Get out of the way, says Crook. That's my ball. Following the rules of baseball. And when his partner's coming in, that's just what you do. Dykstra's coming up. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Fresh, pure, natural, proud to be your Bud. And by calcium-rich Tums. Tums helps wipe out heartburn and gives you calcium. Hot summer night in the city of Philadelphia. 4-4 ball game, a good one with a big house on hand here. Buck Martinez, Peter Gammons, yours truly Gary Thorne, and we're going to see the top 3 in the order for the Philadelphia Phillies. The seasons they're having average-wise right there. Dykstra's added to his total with a double and a run scored in the third. 1 for 2, 9-game hit streak for him. And he takes the strike. Tewksbury has walked 1, struck out none. 2 have been left on by the Phillies, 3 by the Cardinals. Mentioning the great history of these 2 cities as far as baseball is concerned, ironically, really have only been 2 seasons since the turn of the century that these 2 teams have been involved in a pennant race with one another. 1964, St. Louis bested Philadelphia by a game and then went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. And in '82, the Cardinals won 92 games to Philadelphia's 89 and went on to beat Milwaukee in 7 in the World Series. Only 2 times since 1900 Philadelphia and St. Louis have actually gone down to the wire in a pennant race. This year they may do it again. 0-2 delivery. Dykstra protecting. He's going to get another extra base hit. Gilkey chasing it down in the corner. Lenny Dykstra's on his way to second base. His second double of the game and his 29th of the season.
Lenny Dykstra does as much with pitches at the plate as any hitter in baseball. He was in a hole, but he got a pitch out away from him. He was just trying to deflect it, keep it in play, and he does it all the way down into the corner in left field. So once again, it's Lenny Dykstra who starts things for the Phillies. That leadoff spot. It's so hot here. It looks as though some of the players are having trouble with their legs. They might be cramping up tonight. Dykstra is so tightly muscled.
Ours are. Dykstra on at second base, leading it off, trying to move him up. Duncan. Great effort by Pappas, the catcher. That'll give you a little rug burn on the arms, and you go sliding along.
Well, the fundamentals will always look bad in a close ball game if you don't execute them. Duncan got away with a poor bunt right there because Pappas just couldn't come up with it. And a great effort.
That hurts watching guys bounce off that artificial carpet. It's kind of a misnomer. It's real cement is what it really is. Covered green. Mariano Duncan, 2 RBI single, first time up. Great bunt. Pappas got to hurry. Outstanding play both ways. Good sacrifice putting Dykstra on to third. We'll see if they can get him in after we check in with Gary.
Budweiser takes us to Sud City. Red Sox and Brewers in a scoreless game. Angel Miranda delivers to Scotty Fletcher, who bloops it into right. Darrell Hamilton can't find it. By the time he does, John Valentin has given the Red Sox and John Dobson a 1-0 lead. Back to the vet.
Boston trying to get one out of that series. They've lost a couple.
It's a tough stretch for the Red Sox. They play 13 consecutive road games, and they're not a good road ball club.
Not hitting on the road at all. Dykstra, the potential go-ahead run at third. Who else but John Kruk? 0 for 2 against Tewksbury. Down low for a ball. No chance for the Phillies to take the lead. 1 down, 4-4. Bottom of the 5th inning. Kruk batting .406 against Tewksbury in his career with 1 home run. Stop made by Pappas. Dykstra goes back. Dykstra will be watching for the wild pitch here. This situation.
Well, watch Pappas smother that ball right there. Keep it right in front of him. Dykstra's just 90 feet away at third. Look at the infield. Joe Torre has elected to play the defense back in this situation. Yeah, it's still only the 5th inning. Obviously, he expects there to be more runs scored, so he will give Kruk RBI if he can get the ground ball up the middle.
Also recognition about a very good contact hitter and hard that Kruk is. You move that infield in on this guy, he'd quadruple his chances of getting a hit.
Would he be great in one of those old Vikings movies or what, you know? Sacking England.
He is really something. And what a mate he's got there with Dykstra. Had a great conversation with a young shortstop who he said is hurt and not playing, Kevin Stoker. They moved him down into that corner. Those guys got a corner down there. Hollins, Kruk, Dykstra. And they wanted the kid down there with them. So Fregosi said, hey, if he's going to play up here, we might as well put him down there. So in the clubhouse, his clubhouse spot is right in the middle of these guys. Said, you got to be loving this. He said, I didn't know life could be this good.
They have a lot of fun. The music's cranked up and blasting in that locker room.
Second walk given up by Tewksbury. Now first and third. Here's Hollins, who singled his last time up. And the breaking ball is in for a strike. Tewksbury averaging .47 walks per 9 inning. 2 given up in this game, only 9 on the year. Looks at Dykstra at third. Another off-speed breaking ball misses. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Here's a situation where Tewksbury is trying to get Hollins to roll over on that outside pitch, hoping for a ground ball. Good candidate for a double play here with 1 out. Maybe they'll get out of this inning.
Hollins stepping out. Real battle right here. Big point in the game. for both Tewksbury and the Phillies offense. Timeout taken before he started to throw to the plate. Holland's another one of these guys who hits the ball so hard when he makes contact.
Lenny Dykstra still stretching out those legs down at third base.
That one to center field will get at least one home. Jordan backing up, hauls it in. Dykstra tags. Sacrifice fly. Phillies 5, Cardinals 4.
These are the kind of innings you have to have if you intend to win a division championship. You get the leadoff double. Number 2 hitter Duncan sacrifices Dykstra to third, and then Dave Hollins delivers the sac fly to center field.
59 RBIs now for Hollins. Dalton takes the strike, runner at first base and 2 down.
What we've seen tonight is why those 95 runs that Lenny Dykstra scored are no fluke. I don't know if he's going to be the first player since Williams in 49 to get to 150, but getting himself into position to score, whether it's on a pace hit, 40 doubles to 40 stolen bases, the great instinctive base running we saw the first time. There's no other leadoff hitter like him.
5th in on-base percentage, 1st in runs scored. Late in a ball game will try and hit for power. Still plays the game head first. Foul back by Dalton. Bob Tewksbury, this is the first time this season he has walked 2 men in a game. That's how tough he is to get on against. One here in this inning is Kruk, who's on at first base. Has not scored, obviously. Israel Cormier in the bullpen for the Cardinals. Little chin music for Dalton, who backs off. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Philadelphia 1st in the league in runs, 3rd in home runs, 1st in walks. Lead the league in doubles. Showing you all of that here tonight. Taken inside, and the count is full. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Lenny Dykstra once again, a couple of doubles, scored 2 runs. And everything started here in the 5th inning after he was in a hole. No balls and 2 strikes.
3-2. Runner goes. Foul back. Kruk will be angry at Darren Dalton, making him run down to second base for no good reason. Tewksbury's probably lost about 3 pounds so far in this game. Three-two again. Kruk running. Breaking ball tied him up, but it missed. So Tewksbury an unheard of 3 walks in 1 game. And the inning stays alive.
I think those 3 walks reflect the urgency that the Cardinals are starting to feel about this series. They had a 4-run lead in this game. Phillies have tied it ultimately and taken a 1-run lead. So Tewksbury has gone away from his pattern of pitching by trying to make perfect pitches, and now he's got more base runners on.
And a very tough Jim Eisenreich at the plate. Eisenreich down to first, just missed. Eisenreich this season, he's batting .324 against right-handers, .424 against left-handers, and .377 with runners in scoring position, and he's just a role player. What's happened is he's come off the bench to make frequent, infrequent starts. 44 of them this year. Right off the fist to center. Good pitch by Tewksbury. Jordan will put it away, and Eisenreich is retired. A run in, 2 left on. Phillies up. Philadelphia won 10-7 to take the first game of the series last night. They're up 5-4 here. And the Philly Fanatic has the St. Louis Cardinal dummy down there, and To the tune of Nancy Sinatra, these boots are going to walk all over you. There's no mascot quite like the Phillie Fanatic. St. Louis Cardinals in a battle back here against Terry Mulholland. After giving up the grand slam to Zeal in the first inning, he's only given up one other hit. Yoki single in the fifth. Leading off Witten, who's 0 for 2. Center field Dykstra 0 for 3. One down here in the sixth. Here on ESPN on Saturday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, we will have a Hall of Fame weekend for you. The inductees, the National Football League Hall of Fame: Chuck Noll, Bill Walsh, Walter Payton, Dan Fouts, and Larry Little. And that's going to be followed up with the Baseball Hall of Fame ceremony on Sunday. You'll see that at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Hall of Fame all the way around, football and baseball. Only one, Peter Gammons.
Now, Reggie Jackson, we were talking yesterday, where did all this home run trot come from? Now, Willie Montañez might have done it first, but Reggie Jackson definitely popularized. When you watch Junior Griffey and Glenn Allen Hill and some of these guys stand there and admire themselves, I think we can thank Reggie for a lot of that.
Reggie had a unique style of pumping that right arm when he ran around the bases. A trademark.
What a great act of spontaneity by the Oriole fans of the All-Star game. I mean, those are the wonderful things in sports. Fouled off. Reggie had been out there working for the Upper Deck Company during the home run derby. He wasn't supposed to hit. The fans at the end of the home run derby started chanting Reggie, Reggie. He stayed out. Bob Gibson comes back out with a bag of balls, throws about 15 to 20 to Reggie, who clocks one finally over that right field wall and out by the warehouse. Standing ovation as he ran around the bases.
That was quite a day for everything. The old timers game, the home run contest, and then Reggie putting on the show. And Tom Selleck even went deep.
That's right. Mulholland just misses inside on Jordan. He got robbed of an extra base hit by Milt Thompson in the fourth inning.
This is vintage Terry Mulholland here in the middle innings of this ball game. The way he's spotting that ball. See what he did to the first 4 hitters, and after that, 1 for 17. He's shut them out since then.
Boy, that overhand pitch, foul tipped into the mitt. That is strikeout number 6. 2 down. Gary?
Gary, things are getting interesting in Skydome. Fernando Valenzuela had pitched tight to Roberto Alomar in a previous at-bat. How about that one? Right at his head. Robbie was going to shake it off, then Chris Hoyle said something. Chuck Merriweather trying to keep the peace, but instead the bullpens went empty. Eventually, the at-bat continued, and so does the Orioles lead.
There's an awful lot of tension in the entire division in the American League East. The Orioles, some of that goes back to the Messina slight by Cito Gaston. They felt that all of that was a problem. Most of the players on the Orioles club during this series say, that doesn't mean anything to us, but there's an awful lot of tension. Some of the Orioles say, hey, they've got something we want, a division title.
Well, there have been a couple of nasty situations this year, those bench clearings.
And the Orioles were involved in one of the nastiest.
Yep. 1-2 count, misses outside, 2 down, nobody on. Here in the 6th inning for the Cardinals.
And that's where guys get hurt, in those mass melees. I still refuse to accept that they can't have a rule governing the 3rd to 33rd man in.
That hockey over the boards rule.
If that was the case, you would never have anybody going to the mound.
except for Albert Bell.
And Mulholland's given up his 4th walk. 4 walks, 6 strikeouts now for Terry Mulholland. Pappas, who had struck out twice, is on with 2 down here in the 6th inning. See some of the finals coming in and the other games that are going on. Inning stays alive. Tracy Woodson 0 for 2. 2 for 9 lifetime against Mulholland, taking the place of Greg Jeffries. Throw gets away. Down goes Pappas. Kruk over to pick it up. So Mulholland trying to pick off at first with 2 down here, puts a runner in scoring position on the errant throw to first base. And Kruk's limping over there at first.
Take a look at the throw. It's in the dirt off to his left. Tough ball for Kruk to handle. Pappas goes to second base. He's now in scoring position. Watch John Kruk. He misses this ball, and watch his feet as he goes over to the wall and steps right in that seam between the turf and the artificial warning track here. Twisted his right ankle possibly.
He's had a lot of problems with his ankle, both knees. There was even some talk that maybe he's going to end up in left field next year with Hollins moving over to first base.
Down to third. Tough play. Dave Hollins. He saved that inning from going any further right there. 1 left on Philadelphia, and Terry Mulholland leading it. First ball foul back as we go to the bottom half of the 6th. Thompson has walked and grounded out. Martinez going to end up somewhere else, Peter?
Well, I think there's a possibility. Toronto has been talking a lot about him. Matter of fact, Montreal has a scout down watching Knoxville, where a young pitcher named Steve Carsey is pitching tonight. And if the White Sox don't get Sid Fernandez, they still may get back in the Dennis Martinez hunt.
I think Sid Fernandez could be a very valuable pitcher to an American League club because of his unique style of pitching. He would come over here and it'd take the hitters a while to adjust.
Well, that's the guy Ron Schuler in Chicago wants, and I'd be very surprised if he doesn't end up there.
Can he stay healthy long enough to help a team? Swung on and missed by Thompson. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Thompson, Morandini, and Mulholland coming up. 4 left on by the Phillies. 2 in scoring position. Cardinals have now stranded 4. 2 in scoring position. Philadelphia's come back from the 4-0 deficit to lead 5-4 here. Thompson down to first. Tracy Woodson. 1 down in the 6th. Mickey Morandini coming up. Mentioned Tewksbury and the great control that he has.
He said there's 3 aspects that come into play when you talk about control. Mechanics, you have to have a sound delivery. You have to have confidence to throw the ball over the plate. And you have to utilize good judgment in pitch selection. Don't ask yourself to throw your 2nd or 3rd pitch over when you need a strike. Go to your number 1 pitch. Pretty interesting guy to talk pitching with.
Yeah, very. A real pitcher. Mickey Morandini's got himself a base hit. Witten over to get it. Morandini, big turn. Witten throws behind him after he knew he was going back. Morandini is on with a 1-out single in the 6th inning. What an arm this guy has in the outfield.
Mark Witten is one of the few Toronto Blue Jay farmhands that has really developed into the player everyone expected him to. Look at Morandini trying to force his hand. If he comes up quickly and throws behind him, Morandini can then go to second, but Witten played it perfectly. It keeps Morandini right there at first.
Why is Witten wearing long sleeves out there? Bunted. Mulholland for the sacrifice. Second baseman covering Alicea from Woodson. 3-4 on the sacrifice. Morandini down to second base. Mulholland gets the job done.
7th sacrifice of the season by Mulholland, and not wanting to take a chance of a double play. Puts a perfect bunt down. You can see still struggling running down the line. It's favoring those gimpy knees.
Fregosi will be happy to get him off the base pass. Coming back in the dugout. That'll leave the RBI chance to the leadoff man, Lenny Dykstra. Dykstra has already scored twice in this game, 2 doubles and 3 at-bats. And now he comes up with a chance to pick up the RBI. Lenny, this season, only 200 with runners in scoring position, and that's very unusual for Dykstra. Generally, that's another one of his pluses, getting people home.
Well, right now he's going to have to show patience because Tewksbury has a base open with 2 outs. There's a right-handed hitter behind Dykstra. I don't expect him to get too much to hit in this situation.
First pitch is down low to him. There you see the lead that he has, and runs scored, and going after some records in that department. Big run out there, second base, Mickey Morandini. 1-run ball game. Look way around in front of that one. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He's still off the plate. Tewksbury trying to keep everything out of the middle. He'll give that ball off the plate inside to Dykstra. If he wants to jerk it foul, he'll let him. Look at Pappas way inside off the plate. Might have caught more of the plate than Tewksbury wanted.
I think he gave him a little too much to hit on that one. Dykstra waiting here. Tewksbury taking his time. Pretty good lead at second base. That's important for Morandini. Ozzie jockeying behind him. Off speed pitches in. Dykstra turned to question, but the count is a ball and 2 strikes. Lenny Dykstra is right now projected to score 149 runs this season. Since the early 30s, that would be a high. Johnny Mize at 137 with the 47 Giants, and Billy Williams 137 with the 70 Cubs. Dykstra's on a pace right now to go beyond that. This one to center field. Ryan Jordan is camped under it, and that'll do it. No runs on a base hit. Base runner left on in scoring position. We've completed 6 here at the Vet. Philadelphia leading it by 1. Here, Buck, good ball game, though. A great comeback again by the Phillies.
Once again, we're seeing the character of the Phillies. They fell behind early 4-0 on Zeal's grand slam, and after that, they have really fought back.
Well, the pitching about what we expected. Tewksbury a little off tonight, though, Peter.
He's been off, but I think the big thing is the way Mulholland kept them in the game. And he knows they're going to score runs, so he gets down 4-0 in the first 4 hitters. That's a real sign of character.
Jose Oquendo steps in as a pinch hitter.
Oquendo against Mulholland, who has been able to throttle him since that first inning. And that grand slam home run by Todd Zeal, accounting for the 4 runs of the first 4 batters on base in the game. Really had him chasing that one. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Boy, those coats are comfortable tonight, though, aren't they?
Beautiful.
I think we ought to leave them on for the game. Holy cow.
Maybe we can get the lights turned on.
Well, let's get the lights turned on, too, yeah. Breaking ball is tapped towards third. This is going to be a mighty tough play. Hollins barehanded, got him!
That's just exactly what Dave Hollins needed to get these fans back behind him. He's had a tough time defensively, and he needs a good defensive play to boost his confidence and gain the support of the fans. Barehanded, throws on the run and gets Oquendo by a step. What a fine play by the third baseman, who's having some doubts defensively.
Boy, not that time, huh? Hollins makes the play. Well, Holland has had some help in this game. That catch by Milt Thompson on Jordan in the 4th, and that play denying the leadoff infield single to Jose Oquendo. But he was hitting for Tewksbury, who is out of the game now. Luis Alicea has been on all 3 times with the 2 walks and a single, and scored in the first inning. This is up high with it. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 1 out. One more step, he'll be in foul territory. He is really guarding the line at third base. Dave Hollins.
Not wanting to give up that double down to the corner.
Breaking ball, trying to hold up on it, taps it over near the dugout. Tewksbury, 6 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits. He walked a season high 3 batters. He only walked 3 batters in a game twice all last year. That one drilled to left center field. It's playable. Milt Thompson over to get it. 2 down. Alisea retired. Want to remind you, coverage continues tomorrow and Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific. Second round coverage of the Canadian Open tennis. Agassi, Courier, Sampras, Von Lendl, the 6-time Canadian winner there, Michael Chang, Boris Becker. And also tune in on Saturday at noon for semifinal coverage and Sunday at 4 for the finals right here on ESPN. That's the Canadian Open. Ozzie fouls it back. He reached in the first inning on a single and scored. That's his 1 for 3. Mulholland, line drive. Ozzie's got an extra base hit into the corner. Thompson over to get it. Smith's on his way to second base. 2 for 4 for Ozzie Smith. That came on the 121st pitch of Mulholland in this game.
Ozzie gets a high fastball and really gets on top of it. Drives it down into the corner. One hops up against the wall. Milt Thompson comes over, but the Cardinals have the tying run at second base.
No action in the bullpen. 15th double of the season for Ozzie. Now Gilkey with a chance to tie this game up. He singled his last time up, 1 for 2 and a walk.
And he's the hottest Cardinal hitter against Terry Mulholland. Johnny Padres on the phone to the bullpen.
11 for 21. That one deep to left field. Not only tie it, but go ahead. Goodbye home run. Bernard Gilkey, a 2-run homer off Terry Mulholland. And the Cardinals are back on top, 6-5.
Back and forth, Cardinals regain the lead. Bernard Gilkey has really worn out Terry Mulholland throughout his career. He's 12 for 22 now, and there's no doubt about this home run. Up into the seats. Gilkey's 9th home run, and watch the reaction by the captain, Ozzie Smith. Cardinals lead it 7-6, 6-5, excuse me.
9 home runs for Gilkey, a career high. So a grand slam home run in the first inning by Todd Zeile, and a 2-run homer in the 7th inning. Account for the Cardinals 6 runs. That is a fair ball off the chalk by Todd Zeile. Thompson in to get it, going to second base. Thompson's throw not in time. Zeile now has a 2 for 4 night with a home run and a double, and Mulholland has run out of gas.
That 36th inning in the first taking its toll here in the 7th. He threw 36 pitches in the first inning, and now it's 3 consecutive base hits with 2 outs. Todd Zeile has his 2nd hit of the night, a ringing double down into the left field corner. Lots of speed on this team. A 2-out double for Zeile. Cardinals already have 2 in the inning. David West, the left-hander, Larry Anderson, the right-hander, warm in a hurry.
Surprised there wasn't warm-up action a little earlier
with his pitch total that high.
They paid for it here as the Cardinals are back on top and not done yet. Witten's 0 for 3. Mulholland gets the pitch in. Well, he is due right now. He's been wailing a hot bat as well. 279 with runners in scoring position this year, and he's got a runner at second base. Mulholland steps off.
One thing that Witten has proven to be here, which we never really saw in the American League, is a very good situational hitter. He's a very good hitter on counts. We saw the ball he almost hit out earlier.
The St. Louis team, not noted ever for being the long ball club. The Running Redbirds have 69 home runs on the season. On the bottom of the pile, not quite on the bottom, but close to it in homers. Florida has less. They've used 2 home runs in this game to stake out a 6-5 lead. Whitten down to third. Hollins gets it there in time. Whitten is retired, but here in the 7th inning against Terry Mulholland, Smith with a 2-out double and Gilkey with a home run.
At the Skydome, Fernando Valenzuela's got a 4-2 lead in the 7th, but he had just given up a single to make it 4-3, and then Pat Borders will bring home Tony Fernandez. It's now 4-all as the Orioles bat in the 8th as we go back to our game in the vet.
Got a good one going there. Terry Mulholland, we'll see whether or not he's coming back or not, but he may be done after giving up the 2 runs in the 7th inning. Bob Tewksbury is done for St. Louis, but those 2 runs count for him, so he could win this game. And Lee Gooderman, 33-year-old left-hander, has come on in his stead.
Lee Gooderman has been a very effective pitcher for Joe Torre and Joe Coleman out of that Cardinal bullpen. Gooderman, this will be his 13th game of the season, 2-1 with a save. Big sweeping breaking ball, really tough on left-handers. A sinking fastball goes down and away to the right-handers.
He was acquired from the Yankees for Tim Burke and cash last year. Started at AAA this year at Louisville for the St. Louis Cardinals. Pitched down there, was 2-1. Then recalled on June 30th. Here he is. Gooderman on, and now it's the Phillies who've got to come from behind again.
Well, he has plugged some holes. I mean, and they lost Perez. He's a key guy in this bullpen, getting them to Lee Smith. Kilgus did a very good job. He broke his ankle fielding a ground ball. So Gooderman stepped in. I mean, they're still in a little bit of disarray. Joe McGrane got absolutely waxed last night. 22 hits in his last 7 innings. They said he's not going to make another start, but they're not sure who's going to take his place or what to do with him.
McGrane's a real disappointment right now, isn't he?
Really is. And that strain without Perez, who's going to be probably won't be back in the bullpen for another 2 weeks, is really causing some problems. And Cormier really hasn't earned the right to go back into the rotation, so they're not really sure what to do, because until Perez comes back, they can't put Olivares in the rotation.
Pitching. Nobody's got enough. Mariano Duncan, 2 RBI single, came in the 3rd inning. Trying to lead it off here against Gooderman and start something. Bottom half of the 7th inning, and the Phillies down by a run. They are 11-13 in July, the only losing month thus far. It may not be. Time it's done. St. Louis 12-11 in July, trying to catch Philadelphia. Gooderman, 3-2 delivery right off the mound, literally. And Philadelphia is right back at it. Mariano Duncan's 2 for 3 and a sacrifice in the game.
Well, there's a lot of heart in this Philly ball club. We've been talking about it all night long. Once again, they fall behind, but Duncan starts it off in the 7th with a single off of Lee Gooderman. Now, this is why Gooderman is in this situation. Had Kruk, the left-hander, then switch hitter Hollins, but then the catcher Darren Dalton, left-handed.
John Kruk batting .323 against left-handers. Leading the American National League in walks, on base percentage, 3rd in hitting. Taps the first one, base hit into right field. Making the turn, Duncan. Throw by Whitten to 3rd, not in time. Here come the Phillies.
John Kruk had 4 hits off left-handers last night. He bails out and hits the bounding ball through the right side of the infield. Duncan, a little bit of a hesitation around second, but Whitten did a 360 before he throws this high throw to 3rd. Aggressive base running, and the Phillies have 1st and 3rd, nobody out.
Nobody goes home at the bet. Just hang on. No matter how many the other team gets, just wait for the next half inning.
Now, this matchup really favors the Phillies. Dave Hollins is a switch hitter, but from the right side, batting .322 compared to .238 from the left side.
First and third, nobody out. Infield back for two, bounced. A good stop made by Pappas.
When Dave Hollins goes to the plate batting right-handed, the Phillies expect big things. He's got tremendous power from this side of the plate.
And he does it again. Base hit right center field. That's going to roll all the way to the wall. One run in. Kruk making the turn at third. Relay throw. Alicea, no play. A triple for Hollins.
Dave Hollins, a .322 hitter from the right side, rips the ball all the way to the wall in right center. Look at the concentration and the drive. He sees the whole play in front of him. He's got third base on his mind all the way. Hollins delivers a big triple, and the Phillies have regained the lead. Look at Larry Bowa, the third base coach. You don't think this whole team is into this?
3 triples on the season for Dave Hollins, who now has 3 RBIs in the game, 61 on the year. Infield is drawn in with Darren Dalton up and a runner at third. 7-6 Phillies. And Gooderman, now the pitcher of record, as he has come on here and been touched up for 2 singles and a triple, the 3 batters he's faced.
Gary, this represents exactly the Phillies season. Everybody in the lineup making contributions. Dennis Menke, the batting instructor, went to each hitter yesterday and said, listen, fellas, it's time to dig your heels in. We all have to produce.
They are, especially the top of the order. The top 4, Dykstra, Duncan, Kruk, and Hollins, in this game are now 18 for 31 in the 2-game series. 18 for 31. The top 4. Takes the strike, 3 balls, 1 strike. Hollins, the base runner at third, and Darren Dalton, who has 2 RBIs with his triple in the 3rd inning, trying to add to it. He's got 73 in the year. 3-2. Bowa talking to Hollins, the base runner. He walked him. Four batters, 4 on against Gooderman. These bullpens are just ragtag tired. They've been used so much of late for both these teams. Once into the bullpen, you've got guys whose arms are hanging.
And psychologically, they're really beaten up. I mean, on this trip, they've blown leads of 4-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-3. It starts to get to the point where you get ahead and you're just waiting. Uh-oh, what's going to happen?
Very few clubs in the big leagues can manage to get over losing 3 key guys out of their bullpen. Lancaster, Kilgus, and Mike Perez. That's a tough blow to come right in the middle of the season. And Perez is the only one that's close to coming back. So Joe Torre's hands are really tied in the late innings of the ball game before he can get to Lee Smith.
And who's loving this is Terry Mulholland. These runs are to his benefit. He is now back with a chance to win this ball game, whether he comes back out or not. First and third. Nobody out. Jim Eisenreich, who's 1 for 3, stands in against Lee Gooderman. Eisenreich. 424 against left-handers. 14 for 33. Towards short. Ozzie for 2. Relay Alicea. They got 2. Scoring, however, is Dave Hollins. And there'll be no RBI on it, but Philadelphia adds another run and pushes the lead to 8-6.
Well, they get the ground ball they were looking for. Ozzie Smith starts it. Alicea finishes it over to Woodson. Eisenreich is out, but he drives across the run. He doesn't get an RBI, but it's a big 2-run cushion now for the Phillies.
Base is empty. 2 down. Milt Thompson to right field. Whitten. He puts it away, and that'll do it. But the first 4 were on in this inning, and 3 of them scored. ESPN's presentation of Major League Baseball is brought to you by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Acura, who invite you to test drive the new 1994 Acura Integra. Well, the Fanatic and the Philly fans, a lot to cheer about right now, as their team has come back for the second time in this game to take an 8-6 lead, pounding out 11 hits, on top by 2 as we go to the 8th inning here at the Vet. The reason it matters, these standings. Philadelphia won last night. They can gain another game on the St. Louis Cardinals in the second of 3 here in Philadelphia.
I think the way they lost these 2 ball games, if they do go ahead and lose game 2 of this series, awfully demoralizing to have a lead early in a ball game and then regain the lead in this game, only to see it go away at the hands of Dave Hollins and Lenny Dykstra and Darren Dalton and John Bruck.
You know, one of the things, Buck, that I would find very frustrating if I were a Cardinal player is they've been such a good team. They battle all year long. But they're just not going to spend the money to get anybody. They won't spend the money on a Jeff Reardon. They won't spend the money to pick up anyone with any contract to stay in this thing, so that if they can't get it out of the Gutermans and the Tom Urbanis and people like that, they're just not going to be in the race.
Well, in their defense, if they hadn't had those 3 key injuries, they'd probably been okay, but they came at a bad time for them after a 20-7 June right at the start of July.
Dave Hollins is out of the game, and Kim Bautiste has come on to play third. He will bat in the 9 spot, however, because Terry Mulholland is out, and veteran Larry Anderson has come on to do the pitching, and Mulholland is the pitcher of record. 7 innings, 6 runs, 7 hits. He walked 4 and struck out 6. Mulholland left that last half inning trailing, sat there and watched the Phillies get the lead back. So it's Guterman and Mulholland, the pitchers of record right now. Jordan, Pappas, and Woodson are due up against Larry Anderson. Right-hander, a veteran, inside corner strike. Right-handers hitting only 172 off him. Had right shoulder problems early on in the season. Most of the month of May he spent on the DL. 2.54 earned run average during this month. Left field. It's going to stay in the yard. Milt Thompson. He's smiling because he started back on the ball and then it came in a long way.
You might not get 6 months from Larry Anderson at this point in his career, but you're going to get a very good 4, maybe 5 months from him. He is healthy now. He has held the opponents to a .210 batting average overall. He's always around the plate. You know what you're going to get from him as long as he's healthy.
And Jim Fregosi has done a great job with him, primarily using him to start innings. Anderson's not a guy that can get up a lot. He can't get up, sit down.
We're seeing more and more of that in the game today, aren't we? The spot pitchers, roll pitchers to get 1 or 2 guys out. Pitching staff's going to 12 and 13 members.
And the A's think they're going to 16 before the season's over.
Pappas up, takes the strike. The catcher, Eric Pappas. 27 years old, out of Chicago. A lot of minor league experience. Was with the Cubs for 7 games in '91. His only other major league action. Pops it up. Kruk moving over. Oakland.
You know, Gary, it's guys like Eric Pappas that allow the managers to carry the extra pitchers, because Pappas can play first base, he can catch, he can play in the outfield. So now you don't need that extra specialty player, maybe just strictly a backup catcher. We're seeing more and more versatile ball players becoming important in the big leagues this year, because the pitching is so thin and you need to carry those extra pitchers.
And more of guys like Pappas, 9 years in the minors. 7 major league games prior to this year. Yet he is a veteran professional baseball player.
Well, Buck can talk about this, but it's more and more apparent that it takes some catchers a long time to make the big leagues. And you look around at guys of success that Mike Stanley's had in New York. You see that.
Yeah, you see guys catching a little bit longer, and they all recognize now that if you can catch and maybe play an extra position or 2, your chances of getting to the big leagues are much more enhanced. I think for a long time, guys just didn't want to put in the work, but now they're seeing Darren Dalton come through with the bat, huge contract, making a lot of money. Chris Hoyle's in Baltimore, Brian Harper in Minnesota. It's become an attractive position that it was in the early 70s with Bench, Fisk, and Munson.
2-2 delivery by Anderson, misses. How much of that do you think has to do with who the particular stars are of the day, and kids want to emulate whoever the big player is, the Ozzie or the Canseco, and where they play?
I think there's a lot of that. I really believe that. I think you'll see a lot of kids coming into the game today that try to emulate Juan Gonzalez and Junior Griffey.
That means we'll see a lot of uppercuts. Gerald Perry, pinch hitter, waiting on that.
You could pick that guy out right there, Ozzie Smith, and never go wrong.
Just tough to emulate. Shortstop. Duncan. One hopper. Just missed getting him. That would have been a phantasmagorical play if he pulls that one off. Pappas is on with an infield carpet single.
Duncan had a good idea what he wanted to do as soon as he gloved that ball. He was going to bounce it and try to get the advantage of the turf. See, he throws it into the dirt hoping he'll get a good skip off the turf, but Pappas hustles down there and beats it.
That's an Aussie play made by Mariano Duncan. Use the artificial carpet's true hop to your advantage. Gerald Perry, the pinch hitter for Tracy Woodson. These are 2 first basemen off the bench in this game. Anderson gets the strike in, and in this 8-6 game, 8th inning, again the Cardinals have the potential tying run at the plate. The person of a veteran left-handed hitter, Gerald Perry. Perry 14 for 41 as a pinch hitter with 3 pinch hit home runs. Far and away the leading man off the bench in a pinch hitting role, being a left-handed hitter with power. Murray Anderson stays away from him. Ball's behind on the count. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Ray Langford on deck. Come on as a pinch hitter. It's down to it.
And Anderson's working himself into a jam now. 3-1 the count with 1 away and 1 on. This has not been a pitcher's coaching night.
Now the pitching coaches have had a tough night tonight, and it's been as a result, first of all, for the Phillies, Mulholland's tough 36-pitch first inning.
It's going to end up outside of first and in the seats to take the count to 3-2.
The Phillies took a lot of heat for pitching their starters so much in the first half of the season. But Jim Fregosi recognized one of their weaknesses was the middle relief corps. They needed some help for Larry Anderson and for Mitch Williams down in that pen, but they really haven't been able to get any real deep middle relief pitching down there. So Fregosi had to go with the starters and build up that lead.
Runner goes. Perry fouls it off. Runner going with one away and a 3-2 count. Pappas took off for second base.
First half of the season, the Phillies had 60 complete games. 60. They had 17 complete games in their first 60 games. They haven't had one since.
Season does take a toll, doesn't it?
Danny Jackson's been another very fine addition to this Phillies club.
Darryl Perry waiting. Runner goes again. Ball 4. Larry Anderson gives up the walk, and with one away in the 8th inning, the pinch hitter Darryl Perry has drawn the walk to bring the potential go-ahead run to the plate. 2 on and 1 out. And now Anderson's got to go to work. Another pinch hitter, Ray Langford, will be coming up against him. He'll be hitting in the number 9 spot, batting for Lee Guterman. And once the announcement is made, David West, the left-hander, been warming up in the bullpen, and that's what's going to happen right here. Fergosi's on his way out. Anderson giving up a walk and a single, getting only 1 out. 2 base runners, his responsibility. West on in relief. Martinez and Peter Gammons at the Vet. Great to have you with us. ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball, and right now it's a grinder. 46,346 on hand here at the Vet tonight. Philadelphia's come from behind twice. 8-6 lead, but the Cardinals have 2 on and 1 out. Ray Langford, the pinch hitter. Left-hander David West is on in relief, and Langford takes a strike.
David West was acquired by the Phillies in a trade with Minnesota that sent Mike Hartley to the Twins back in December of last year. It's taken a while for David to find his spot, but this might be it, working out of the bullpen for the Phillies.
He leads the club with 45 appearances, has held right-handers to a 199 batting average against him this season. Has been throwing some strikes. He has the best strikeout per innings pitched ratio on the team. 59 strikeouts in 59 innings pitched.
He's typical of what Lee Thomas did building his club. He went out and got a lot of arms. Schilling with his 4th team, Green with his 2nd team. This is West's 3rd team, Rivera's 2nd team. Gotten him here, worked with Johnny Padres on throwing strikes.
There's an awful lot of cast-offs on this club, and that has a lot to do with their pride to prove everyone wrong.
You really can run down that list and name other teams, can't you, in that roster of Philadelphia. West up, 1 ball, 2 strikes on Langford. Got him, great pitch. An off-speed breaking ball that tied Langford up, froze him, and it hit the outside corner.
David West has always had this kind of stuff, but he's never been able to harness it. Look at how he really locks up Ray Langford. He couldn't pull the trigger as West started a curveball right at him.
Langford's really had a tough time. He had a hamstring pull in spring training, then he hurt his shoulder, then he hurt his hand, and while he says he's healthy now, he's still caught in between. He just can't seem to make up his mind how he's supposed to swing and when.
West trying to get out of the inning. Luis Alicea singled, walked twice, last time up flied to center field. Alicea against the left-handers, 368 this year, limited at bats against them, 38 coming into the game, but 14 hits, including 1 home run. 2 on, 1 and 1. Pappas, not a particularly speedy base runner at second. Perry the same on at first. Just keep that in mind if there's a base hit here. Alicea, breaking ball missed. 2 balls, 1 strike, 2 down. Phillies leading 8-6. The Cardinals trying to get back in it. Mentioned how the Philadelphia team is first in runs. They are 6th in average. St. Louis has the 2nd best average behind the Giants, and they are 4th in runs. Some pretty good production for a club that has not been noted for great offense. And getting the long ball this year. 3-2.
You hate to go to a full count in this situation with runners at first and second. It gives them a running start, takes away the force out at second, and a ball in the gap. Perry will have a legitimate shot of scoring.
Alacea's had one 3-run homer off West. This time he grounds it down to third. It is a fair ball. Batiste makes the throw, and Kruk makes a nice stretch to help him out. Good job, David West, as he leaves 2 on and protects the Philadelphia lead. Zeal came to the plate with the bases loaded in the first. His first career grand slam, his 8th home run of the season, and the St. Louis Cardinals quickly went up in the ball game 4-0. In the 3rd inning, the Phillies came back, and then Dave Hollins in the 7th inning, this 2 RBI triple as he took off with Duncan and Kruk having singled in front of him, came on to score, and the Phillies back on top 8-6 on Hollins' 3-bagger. That's where we are right now. 11 hits pounded out by Philadelphia in this game, and the pitchers just keep on coming.
Left-hander Real Cormier comes out of the Cardinal bullpen to work. Cormier started the season as a starter. That's what led to his 29 games of work as a reliever. This is his 17th relief appearance out of the bullpen. He's 1-1 with a 4.09 ERA. He made 13 starts earlier for the Cardinals, but they want him to go down to the pen to see if he can get some of his problems ironed out. Gerald Perry moves over, came on as a pinch hitter, takes over defensively at first base.
Yeah, let's see if there are more fireworks left in some bats in this game. Cormier goes to work. The Phillies up here in the 8th inning. Mickey Morandini singled his last time up, 1 for 3. Kim Batiste on deck batting 9th, and then Lenny Dykstra the leadoff batter. Larry Anderson a 3rd of an inning, 1 hit, 1 walk. David West protected his line by getting the 2 outs. Towards second. Didn't have many ground balls in this game. Alicea makes that one. Morandini's out of there, and we're going to check in with Gary.
At Kauffman Stadium, the only run last night was a Rafael Palmeiro home run. It was also the only hit off Kevin Appier. Well, he's hit 2 of them off Hippolito Pichardo. He's got 3 home runs in 2 games. That's his 23rd. A 5-run 5th. Rangers up 6-3.
Home runs, home runs.
Boy, Palmeiro is scalding hot right now.
Batiste getting his first time to the plate. Takes the pitch down low for a ball. St. Louis Cardinals. Cormier trying to protect and not let that lead get any higher and give his team a chance in the 9th inning. Batiste swinging on way out of the strike zone. They have Smith, Gilkey, and Zeal due up in the 9th, so they've got the middle of the order coming up. One count. Batiste fouls it off the end of the bat. He's appearing in his 45th game, but only 137 at-bats for him this season.
He was one of the players they tried at shortstop. Gave him the chance to play there, see if he could fill the void.
Broken bat ground ball to second again. Alicea makes the play, 2 down. He touches. We go to Gary.
Let's check out Milwaukee. The Red Sox had a 2-0 lead in the 4th, but John Dobson hits this one off of Mo Vaughn. It ends up a triple. They knock in Greg Vaughn and Kevin Reimer. Cooper's error allowed Yount to score in the 5th, and right now the Brewers are up 3-2, but the Red Sox are threatening in their half of the 6th. Back to you.
Boy, that's turning into a tough series in Milwaukee.
These 4 towns that the Red Sox are going to, they're 32-59 right now in the 90s.
Ooh. Two down, nobody on. Lenny Dykstra going after it. He's got a base hit to left field. Gilkey will get it back in, and Lenny Dykstra, a 3-hit ball game, 2 doubles and a single in 5 at-bats.
That meeting Dennis Menke had with his hitters paying big-time dividends at the top of the order. 594, the top 4 hitters, 16 runs and 11 RBIs.
Mercy. Here's Dennis Menke.
After that West Coast 5 and 6 road trip, he said, fellas, we've got to pick it up a notch, and they've really done that the first 2 games of the series.
That's a notch, huh? Real Cormier. Mariano Duncan has contributed in this game. Dykstra will be taken back. Lenny Dykstra leads this ball club in stolen bases. He has 26 on the season. And with 2 down here, yeah, he just might take off. Vince Coleman leads the league with 38. Dykstra's tied for 6th in stolen bases. Vince Coleman may not be stealing many more bases.
Lenny tends to be more of a situational base runner, and he's only been caught 4 times, though, 3 of them on hit and runs. And he doesn't steal to run up numbers.
Potential big run if they could get him around here with 2 down in the 8th. The 2-run difference, the way these teams have come back against one another. So the battles join Cormier and Dykstra. Wild Thing is ready to go in the bullpen. Left tackle numbers. No timeout taken. The timeout was not given to Mariano Duncan. That is a strike. He backed out too late, says Wally Bell, the home plate umpire.
Well, the hitter asked the umpire for time. Watch the umpire's reaction. He didn't react at all to Duncan's request, and Cormier throws a strike.
1 strike count. Dykstra. He'll go back as he lines up Cormier.
Even if Dykstra doesn't steal here, he certainly has Cormier's attention, and that detracts from the hitter. Cormier's focus on the hitter is obviously less than 100% right now.
Dykstra's almost got that 1 foot on the carpet. Not quite. Not going. Base hit. Lenny Dykstra takes a look. Witten with a great arm up with it, so he stays at second base. Duncan's got his 3rd hit. He's now 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. And maybe they're going to add another. Friday night baseball. Big doubleheader coming up here on ESPN. The Red Sox will be in Baltimore. Frank Viola, Mike Mussina. 2 teams battle in the American League East. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Then you'll see at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, the Rangers and A's. Nolan Ryan, 2-2 on the season. Ricky Henderson, a .400 batting average in July. All in the doubleheader Friday night. Big chance right here. And who else would be at the plate but John Kruk? 2 on, 2 down. Bottom of the 8th. Phillies leading by 2. Breaking ball by Cormier's up high. .351 his batting average now. 57 RBIs. Dykstra, a very good and quick base runner at second base. And Duncan with good speed on at first. There are 2 outs. Real Cormier. This is the outside corner. 2 balls, no strikes.
You hear so much about John Kruk really not having any idea at the plate. Let me tell you, he's dumb like a fox. Right now, he's probably thinking out over the plate, trying to go the other way. Cormier has shown him 2 pitches on the outside.
Way out of the strike zone. 3 balls, no strikes. Well, Cormier got the first 2 on ground balls. Single to Dykstra, single to Duncan, and now 3-0 on Kruk. Phillies have now picked up 18 runs on 31 hits in the first 2 games of this series, and they're not done here in this game yet. the 8th. Phillies up by 2. Kruk gave it a big roundhouse cut.
See, you give him the green light because he doesn't have any pitching patterns or anything. If it's close to him and headed in his direction, he's going to swing at it. But let me tell you, he opens his stance, but when he comes toward the plate and gets in a hitting position, it's a very good one. That front foot really dives in toward the plate, and he tucks that shoulder in, and he's really closed at approach.
84 walks, only 50 strikeouts. 50, maybe another one. 3-2. Gary?
We make it a policy here of bringing you history as it happens. Ken Griffey Jr. is coming to the plate and the Kingdome. He's hit a home run in 7 straight games. He's getting a shot at the all-time record. Let's join the Twins broadcast.
Strike one from Willie Banks. Change up, and it's 0-2. That 0 for 3 coming earlier this year at the Metrodome. One and two.
Good waste pitch. Wouldn't be surprising to see Willie Banks really do well against Ken Griffey Jr. because of that competitive nature. That's really, I think, the only thing that keeps Willie from becoming a better pitcher is concentration, and I think he's locking it in right now.
Got him. A good first inning for Willie Banks, and 0 for 1 so far for Junior Griffey.
He'll get a few more chances. We'll keep you posted throughout our game, and of course on through baseball tonight with John Saunders once we're done with action at the vet between the Cardinals and Phillies. Right now, let's go out to our trio in Philadelphia.
All right, Gary, thanks very much. John Kruk has drawn a walk to load the bases. Real Cormier is coming out of the game. Bases loaded, and Jordan will be coming to the plate when we come back. Lenny Dykstra on at third. Mariano Duncan at second. John Kruk is at first. The bases are loaded. Ricky Jordan against Omar Olivares. Olivares on for Cormier. 2 down, 3 on. Grounded towards the hole. Great stop, but no play for Ozzie. A run in. Ricky Jordan, the RBI. Dykstra scores. 9-6 Phillies.
Ozzie Smith saved a run by keeping it on the infield, but Dykstra scores his 3rd run of the night. Ricky Jordan, his 12th pinch hit of the season, drives in the 9th Phillies run. What an effort by Ozzie Smith, but he has no play.
This all coming with 2 down in the bottom of the 8th inning. Darren Dalton now with the bases loaded. Joe Torre wondering, is there any pitching somewhere to help me out here? His 4th pitcher. That one to deep left field for the grand slam near the wall. Goodbye, home run, Darren Dalton.
His Olivares pitch away from him and drives it to left field. Dalton tripled for 2 RBIs. He has 6 RBIs on tonight. And the Cardinal bullpen has been pounded on here tonight in Philadelphia.
His 18th home run of the season, the grand slam, and Philadelphia has taken a 2-run lead and built it to 7.
Now the bullpen came in with a 6-5 lead. 3 pitchers, 13 batters. 9 of them have reached base. 8 of them have scored. Nice job.
with the bases empty by Jim Eisenreich. A huge 2-out rally here in the bottom of the 8th for Philadelphia, highlighted by the second grand slam of the game. Todd Zeile in the 1st and Darren Daulton here in the 8th. And it's not over yet. Eisenreich gets his second hit. Philadelphia pounding it out now. 16 hits. Greg Jeffries, who couldn't play because of the bad back, can only watch.
Very demoralizing to lose this way, but think back to the 1st inning when Todd Zeile hit a grand slam and the Cardinals were sky high.
That was a millennium ago. This is the 9th man up in the inning. There's Todd Zeile, his grand slam in the 1st, now all but forgotten. Milt Thompson, as the Phillies have hit around. Dalton's 5th career grand slam. 2 of them have come this year. And 1 off the Pirates. Thompson fouls it off, but boy, was that close by Eric Gregg, the umpire at 3rd. It is a career high 6 RBIs in a ball game for Darren Daulton. 5 career grand slams for him. What a season. Money well spent. Off the fist. That's a fair ball. Turning second, Eisenreich on his way to 3rd. He makes the turn at 3rd. Ball waves him home. Gilkey's thrown to the plate. Not in time. RBI double, Milt Thompson. 14-6.
Milt Thompson was the only regular that hadn't had a hit in the ball game. Bernard Gilkey barehands it on the run, but his throw is going to be late to the plate. Eisenreich comes in with the 14th Philly run. So all of the starters now have a base hit, at least in this ball game.
Well, you were saying earlier, everybody contributing. Here it is tonight. They have batted around now. Nicky Morandini started this inning with a ground ball out. It started so easily for Real Cormier, who got the first 2 on ground ball outs. All of this has come with 2 away. 6 runs in, 6 hits with 2 down. Milt Thompson on at second base. Thompson with 11 doubles, 38 RBIs now. 14 runs, 17 hits for Philadelphia. Towards short, Ozzie for the merciful 3rd out. The Phillies have changed the complexion of this ball game largely on one big swing of the bat by Darren Daulton, the grand slam home run, a 6 RBI game.
14-6 Phillies, top of the 9th inning. Darren Daulton, the Phillies catcher, 2 hits, 6 home runs. At this time of the year, catchers generally wear down a bit.
You know, as a catcher, you're going to run into periods where you're tired. The weather's going to affect you. The schedule's going to affect you, and both of those affected me for the first 2 weeks right there before the break. But I feel good now, and plan on catching my second win and putting up some good numbers in the second half.
Well, he's got a good jump on it here tonight. A triple and a home run, 6 RBI, and he has blown the game wide open.
Just keep the numbers coming. 24 runs and 35 hits in the last 2 games for the Phillies. And they play Wild Thing by the Trogs because he's on. Mitch Williams. And he warming up the bullpen, expecting him probably to come in a 2-run ball game.
27 saves for Mitch Williams. He always gets your attention. He'll have a walk here and there and then strike out the side, but more often than not, he'll put a base runner or 2 on.
Smith, Gilkey, and Zeal for the Cardinals here in the ninth. Boy, the bullpen for the Cardinals after Tewksbury gave up 5 runs and 8 hits over 6. Lee Guterman 3 runs, 3 hits in an inning. Cormier 3 runs, 2 hits, 2/3 of an inning. Olivares a third of an inning, 3 runs on 4 hits, including the home run off Omar Olivares, the grand slam by Dalton. That's bad stuff in the pen. That's 9 runs off the bullpen on 9 hits. On the other side, Anderson and West working an inning, giving up just a hit, and now Williams with a chance to just mop up in a 14-6 game. But he'll make it interesting anyway.
Mitch has a little trouble pitching unless the game's right on the line, so maybe he's going to make it a little closer so he can get some pressure out there.
If he makes it that close to me watching from the clubhouse.
Thinks he can create his own save opportunity. 3-1 the count, inside corner. It'll be 6. But Philadelphia hangs on to this 14-6 lead. Ozzie reaching, fouls it off down the first baseline. No play. Philadelphia Phillies now. This will be the 118th game that they have not been shut out. It is a Philadelphia record. The National League record is 150 by the Pirates. The New York Yankees have the overall record, 308 games. The Yankees went without being shut out in the early 30s. But in this day and age, that's a pretty great number of games, 118 without being shut out. This just in. Anthony Young has won a game for the New York Mets. Anthony Young is a winner. Baseball tonight will show you how he did it, and the Griffey watch and the pennant races. Ozzie's gone. Gary Miller.
Gary, bottom of the 10th at Skydome. Infield in for the Orioles. Mark Williamson in a bases loaded situation facing Tony Fernandez with the game on the line. The chopper to Ripken. He's got to come home. He bobbles it. They give him an error, and Mauer kicks Hoyles off the plate. Toronto's back in first by a half. The O's are 3.5 out. Back to the vet.
Good baseball for the fans.
Boy, it's good baseball everywhere, isn't it? Yankees, Red Sox, all in the pennant race.
One down here, 9th inning. It's Williams trying to put it away off the fist. Gilkey. Duncan gets it over. 2 down, and St. Louis is down to their final out. And Joe Torre's pitching staff is a bit of a shambles right now.
They need a shot in the arm, and I don't know where they're going to get it.
And I don't think he does right now either. 46,346 here tonight, seeing their Phillies come from a 4-run deficit in the first inning to tie this ball game up. St. Louis would battle for a couple in the 7th. Phillies would come right back, and then in that 8th inning, they just opened this game wide open. That's going to be a base hit. Not done yet. Todd Zeal. A 3-hit game, a grand slam, a double, and a single in 5 at-bats for Zeal. Now Witten will try and keep it alive. He has not had a hit in the game, going 0 for 4 tonight. 257 on the season now for Witten. A long way to go. 14-6 Phillies on top. Philadelphia Phillies have set another record here for the season. They have not had a batter strike out in this game. The first time since August 17, 1991, Phillies have gone in through a game without having someone strike out. That is really amazing in a 14-6 game with all the big cuts we've seen taken.
Well, there weren't too many outs at all late in the ball game. Everybody was hitting and getting on base.
Well, I think that's one of the problems the Cardinals have on this staff. You've got to mix in one or two guys that force hitters to swing and miss once in a while. There are just too many control, put the ball in play types.
Olivares looking out where that ball left the park off Darren Dalton's bat. He walked it. We told you it'd make it interesting. With 2 down, a single to Zeal, a walk to Witten, 2 on here in the 9th for the Cardinals, still down to their final out. Darren Dalton, I've had enough. I'm hot, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, and I want to go home. Throw that across the plate.
They've been waiting for this kind of offensive outbreak. Out in the West Coast, they didn't have much production at all. Got pretty decent pitching. But the bats have come alive.
Certainly have in this game. Jordan 0 for 4. Brian Jordan batting at .278 on the season now. Mulholland, the pitcher of record in this game, along with Guterman. Philadelphia trying to take the first 2 of this series against the Cardinals and win the first 2 in the 6-game homestand. Cardinals, absent a miracle here, are going to be 3-6 on this road trip. One ball, 1 strike. It's Williams. Foul back, 1-2. They are up at the vet. Two down, 2 on, a 14-6 lead for the Phillies. Jordan waiting. Fouls it right straight back. Well, Peter Gammons, Buck Martinez, great working with you. Great seeing the game.
Really quite an interesting game. You look at the 2 pitching matchups. Those guys really weren't on their games, but the bullpen for Joe Torre, the difference in the ball game tonight.
We knew before this season that this was going to be an offensive year with the attrition on pitching with expansion. And I really believe that teams like the Phillies, the great hitting teams, can absolutely outslug people for 3 months. And I still think their pitching staff will get back together when it cools down in September.
Trying to end it. The pop-up. Mariano Duncan, the shortstop. That's it. 14-6. Darren Dalton, a grand slam and a career-high 6 RBIs. Jim Fergosi's Philadelphia Phillies have won their 64th game. They won only 70 all of last year. They take the first 2 of 3 against the team that's chasing them and now lead the St. Louis Cardinals by 6. For Buck Martinez, Peter Gammons, and all of our crew here in Philadelphia, this is Gary Thorne. Mulholland wins it. Guterman, the loser. Final score, 14-6. Baseball tonight coming right up.